as we wind down the calendar of the year 2021, it's always important to do some reflection on the past year in your comic book collecting hobby. Hey YouTube, it's Matt here, and like I said, it's always a good thing to do a review of the year in comic collecting. Now, one of the best things about this hobby isn't the comic books, although guys, there's a lot of comic books that I'm going to show you in this video. But one of the best things is the people we meet. Now, I've been making some, true friendships in this hobby, and some of the people I want to shout out are going to be Tina Carenson, who's a great person, Alan from Climate Comics, Master Blaster, Gino Presents, Jay from Over Easy Mode, Young Matthew, and Reggie Collects. Those are people that I've known before the year 2021, but I was just happy to be able to continue that friendship going forward. Now, 2021 was a really busy year for me, and I didn't know that it was going to be that type of a year because my goals, and I'm going to talk to you about my goals and whether or not I accomplished them for 2021, because I was able to meet a lot of people, and that is definitely, without a doubt, my favorite part of this hobby. Guys, some of the people that I got to meet, and in no particular order whatsoever, I got to meet Niall from Desired Comics. Him and I had a wonderful day together going through a comic book collection, and a fabulous comic book collection, nonetheless. Dave from Mark Spector Comics, Joe from Anachronic Comics, who I've actually spent, a couple weekends hanging out with, one time in Rhode Island, another time in North Carolina. So Joe and I are getting to know each other pretty well. I got to meet Otto and Roger from Three Men in a Basement. Really fun guys. Wayne from Squirrel Madness Comics, who is one of the most absolute genuine human beings I've ever met. I like a lot of people, but I absolutely appreciate how wholesome Wayne is. And if you ever get a chance to meet him, you'll understand what I mean. A lot of these guys have channels, okay? Wayne's definitely one of them. Definitely check out these channels that people have. Doug and Dave Bratton, who I've met on 3 different occasions. I met them in Pennsylvania, I met them in New Jersey, and also in North Carolina. So they are some other people that I'm getting to know on a decent basis here. Aaron from AA Comics, who we've had quite a few interactions this year. Phil from Philtastic Phil Comics and Art, which is an awesome YouTube page. Such a super good guy. Mass Snow, I got to meet him down in North Carolina. Jeffrey Cragen, I got to meet him in North Carolina. And Don Jones and Lee Atkins at the Reggie Collects Garage Con. I got to meet them and so many other people. And such a great time running into people. But guys, I did not realize what I had in store for this year whenever I'm looking back upon it, because I really had 5 goals for the year 2021, okay? Meeting people wasn't one of them. That was just a bonus. But my 5 goals were 4 different comic books, okay? And I will show you them. And then I'm going to tell you at the end of this video what my 5th goal was that I have never told anybody on air yet. So you guys will be the first ones to know that goal. But guys, this was the first year that I really sent books off to CGC. Now, I'd done it in 1s and 2s in the past through LCSs, but never before had I done it before. And some of the books that I'm going to show you now are not necessarily new books to my collection, but they were never graded before, so they feel like new books. One is this 8.0 ASM 242, or forgive me, 238. Now guys, this is the best 8.0 that you'll ever see in the world. What it is, and I knew it whenever I sent it in, there is a tiny little tear. Guys, when I say tiny, I know it's there because I graded it before I sent it. I thought it was going to be NATO. but that tear is hard to see when I know about it. It's a really good looking 8.0. I sent off a Tomb of Dracula, came back 2.0. I actually had two of these. I sold one. The one I sold was a 3.0. This one just looks a lot better. So I kept the one that looked better and sold the higher grade. A ASM 361 9.6, and it's a newsstand. I don't know if newsstands are really worth more or whatever, but for a book that came out in 92, newsstand issues were a relatively rare thing at that time. I see people sending in and they try to get a book that came out in 1979 where like 94% of all books were newsstand. And they're like, it's a newsstand. Well, that doesn't really fly with me, okay? 92, you're starting to talk, okay? Here's a big issue right here. This is the second appearance of Gunslinger Spawn. And here's the first appearance of Gunslinger Spawn. Gotta love this. Conan the Barbarian #1. Now, this came back in 9.4, and I'm kind of a little upset about it because this is a 1 in 200 variant. I had bought it, and whoever, you can't really tell, but in this bottom corner right here, whoever packaged it bent a corner before I ever got it, okay? I ordered it on eBay, and I'll give the seller some credit. You couldn't really tell until you took it out of the bag and board. Here's a nice king-size Conan #1, a Joe Jusko variant. Guys, this isn't really like a comic book that's worth a whole lot. I just love the Jusko art on it. It just pops. Speaking of art, it seemed to be that the books that I sent off to CGC were all about the art on the cover. Here's Spawn #229. A great homage cover. Here's a cool character, Silk #1. I found this book in the wild, and I just like, this is a good looking book, so I sent it off and got a good grade. This Spawn 185. This book, I pressed myself, and I pressed this book probably 8 times because there were so many imperfections in it. I got this book up, I cleaned it up to a 9.8. Honestly, I think when I started it, it was a 9.0. I just like the cover. This is one of those books that I've been collecting, way back whenever I first got into comic books. This came out in 2005. Well, it's a print or a cover print of January 2005, so it came out in 2004. About the time I started, a year or so after. Conan the Barbarian #1, a Perillo cover. Joe from Anachronic Comics knows all about Perillo, so shout out to you, Joe. Now, I showed you Silk #1. Here is ASM #4, which is the first appearance of Silk. There's a lot of hope I have for that character. A really, really well-written character. Marvel Zombies. This is a book that's been in the collection for a long time. And then when the What If series came out this past summer, that book seemed to catch a little bit of heat. This was an AOK from the year before from Dawn from Solid 2 Kings, who I talked about. I got to meet this year, but I sent this book away and it came back in 9.8. Another AOK from over a year ago. This came back from Tina, and this is Marvel Team Up #141, one of the 4 first appearances of the Black Suit. As long as you don't count that Marvel Age book, which really kind of was a first appearance. But those are some of my books that I got back. But listen, guys, I live in a family, and I am the only big comic book collector here in the household. The cameraman also collects his comic books, and my wife actually has a small comic book collection. It's not very large, and she hasn't added any titles to it in quite a few years, but she still has her few that she likes to read. One of the titles that she liked to read was Strangers in Paradise. And so this book, I got her, I don't know, it was just a surprise one time. And this was came from Wizard Magazine. You had to send away to get it. Well, I ended up getting this. And then I picked up another book in the wild, okay? The exact same books. She wanted me to send both of these books off to CGC. They both came back at 9.8. I don't know what she's going to do with them. Maybe someday. This was an AOK from Battle Delta 66 and Battle Panda 66. This is a book, Dark Knights Rising, The Wild Hunt #1. This went off to Spencer, who is starting to get a really nice comic book collection in his own right. Now, he loves Dr. Aphra. I don't know, he just always liked that character, and I really do too. So I cannot blame him for this. This is the 2017 Dr. Aphra #1. He sent off a Darth Vader #1, came back 9-4. And the 2000 series, here's another Spencer book, and it is Dr. Aphra #1. So, really cool book. Now, those are some of the books that I had personally sent off to CGC, and that's a new experience for me. I have a few more that I'll show you, and I'll get to them a little bit later, but I want to talk a little bit about some AOKs. And guys, I can't show every AOK that I got this past year. They're so appreciated, but some of them are filed away in boxes, and I don't have a record of what my AOK books are versus other means of finding books. But I just had some that were around here. But Scotty G, you know, I really appreciate the AOK you sent. I know that while I'm on camera, I'm going to forget a few names. So don't think that I forgot about you. It's just right now I can't get to everybody. But Matt Snow, who's becoming a pretty good friend here, he sent me this Seinfeld Kramer. And I love this little thing. I don't know, I'm not a person that keeps statues in boxes, but there's a part of me that thinks this needs to stay in a box. I have to figure that out, Mass Snow. So, you know, give me a little bit of time, because I might actually display that. I might leave it in the box and display it. But from Doug and Dave Bratton, and they actually sent me a couple AOKs, but I got this really cool Batman, The Audio Adventures, and it is signed right down here. Love that book. Tina. I don't know. Tina's a pretty interesting character. I love double covers. Okay. One of them ended up leaving my hands. And within a few weeks, this showed up in the mail. Now, it was completely random, but what a double cover is it is a book, and I will pull it out of the back here, that has two covers on it. Now, CGC will actually grade both covers, and they'll put both covers on the grade, but in the corner, the main grade is the highest of the two. Now, what I mean by that is two covers. Look here, and look here. And then, you know, the regular comic will start after the second one. Same thing, the back cover is the same. It's just the cover pages. But, so here's a double cover. I am going to try to press this, do some magic with it, send it off. I want to see it. The inside cover, I think I might be able to get that up to a 9.8, 9.4 at the very least. And I'm really stoked about that. So, Tina, you know, thank you for that wonderful AOK. Now, I told you, Battle Delta 66 and Battle Panda 66, and so many people in the community sent me so many awesome things for Veterans Day. And one of the things that they sent me, and Tony from EGS sent this. Now, there was a lot of people that sent a lot of things. Rob Boswell, Reggie Collects did, and so many more. Dave Collects, John's Comics with Kids, and so many more. But this was a book. This is a book, the very first comic book that I ever had, okay? It was a subscription my mother ended up buying me. This was graded by ECS, and I absolutely love the case and how these are displayed. This is an amazing display from EGS. And a really cool AOK for my man Lee Atkins, okay? He knows I'm a Conan guy, and there's Uncanny X-Men. It's actually issue number 8, and it has Conan on the cover. Now, Conan's not in the story. Whenever Marvel got the rights, or the licensing rights back to Conan, they put Conan on the cover of a lot of titles just to publicize the new character they were putting out. And this is one of those covers that they did. Now, some of the things that I got into, and I'm blaming Master Blaster. Master Blaster is completely at fault for this new thing that is happening in my comic book collecting. I'm now hunting signed books. Now, I don't necessarily want to buy signed books off eBay. That's not my thing. But if I can go and witness a signature and have a conversation with the creator, I really enjoy that. And so I've gotten a few signed books, okay? Now, two of them, I'm going to laugh because I do know the creator. I've met him a couple times in person, and I communicate with him on a regular basis. That's Reggie from Reggie Collects. This is Gung Ho Sexy Beast number 4, 2 variant Reggie Collects covers. Absolutely awesome to see. And Reggie signs it here and down here. So I got the, I didn't see Reggie signings, but I feel like I know Reggie, so I feel it's alright. And I've seen him sign other books. Now, one of the coolest books I've ever seen. Speaking of Reggie, Reggie was able to interview Clayton Crane on an online comic book con whenever the world was shut down in 2020. And Reggie asked Clayton Crane what his favorite cover of all time was. And Clayton Crane said Sensational Spider-Man 32. Now, I had a copy of this in the collection and also found one in the wild a little bit later. And I sent 2 of them off. This is one. I love this, 9.8. I love the Clayton Crane signature right here. I'm trying to keep the glare out of the way. But I just think Clayton Crane's signature it's a work of art in its own right. And I really appreciate that. Now, this book, I actually ended up sending it to CGC in-house signing. This is Conan Barbarian number 24. One of my all-time favorite covers ever. And Roy Thomas signed it. Now, I told you, I like to meet the signers, okay? Well, Roy Thomas, at the time that he signed out, he was 80 years old. So I felt, you know what, I'm just going to send this because, guys, for years I always wanted to meet Stan Lee, and I never got a chance to meet Stan Lee. I don't have a book that's signed by Stan Lee. So I was like, I got to go and send that off. Now, that's going to lead me to another story later on. But the same Clayton Crane signing, this is an Invincible Red Sonja number 1. This has a murder insignia Clayton Crane signature on it. I love that, rainbow colors. It was really cool. I did a video where he signed that right in front of us, and he went all through that. Now, this book is going to fall under 2 categories. 1, yellow label sign. Roy Thomas signed this. Now, what makes this cool? Okay, I told you, Roy Thomas is getting up there in age, and I don't want to miss out. He's going to live for a long time, but like I said, I waited too long with Stan Lee, and so I sent this off to CGC, but here's the truth. I ended up meeting Roy Thomas this year. I ended up meeting him because Joe from Anachronic Comics, he told me that Roy was going to be at this show in Rhode Island this year. Well, my wife and I decided, hey, we're going to go up, so not only did I get to meet Roy Thomas, I got to meet Joe. So it was a really fun time. So this book, now where this comes into 2, I started realizing that books can be improved because I started pressing a little more than a year ago. And this was a book that I just felt, it was a 9.4 blue label before, I just felt it could benefit by a press. Well, it's now a 9.6 with a Roy Thomas signature, and there's only 10 books this grade or higher that are signed. So this is a relatively rare comic book. Now, another book that's falling under the same category of sending back to CGC and I have them press it. I can press, and I feel I've been doing a good job with it, but sometimes if it's in the case already, I really don't want to mess it up. So this previous 9.4 ASM 300 got sent back, and it came back at 9.8. I was quite stoked about that. And another book, I'm quite stoked that it came back. This was a 9.4 Spawn, number 1, black and white. There's less than 100 9.8s of this book in the world. It's a very hard one because it's a black cover. So glad to have that at 9.8. So I have a few more books that I know are eventually going to make their way back to CGC. Now guys, this has been a long video, but I still have more to show. And I have more to talk about. Trading. trading is something I've never really known about, okay? Not known about. I obviously know about it, but it just hasn't been very successful for me. And the few times in the past that I've tried to have trades, I was always a person trying to trade up to get a bigger book. And I would match somebody value-wise, but I'd be trying to get a nice book, and I would be giving books that weren't as nice. And I understood why the other parties didn't want to trade with me. It wasn't an insult. It was what it was, okay? But I was able to reach out to Aaron from AA Comics because he had a really cool book on his Instagram, and I ended up looking at it, and I'm like, I want that book. And so I offered a trade, and it would, believe it or not, the trade value, the book I was offering, which was an Amazing Spider-Man 300. I actually, at the beginning of the year, I had 3 of those in my collection. I'm down to 1, okay? And I'll show you my goal books here in a little bit. I ended up selling one to acquire a goal. And then I got this book with the ASM 300 and this book, okay? 2 really cool Batman. And I love this 227. It's just the cover is amazing. The first Raja Goal right here with Batman 232. Really nice trades. Now, Matt Snow, who is a subscriber, awesome human being, got to meet again, I talked about before, but I got to meet him this year. But we were able to make a really nice trade, and he sent me this Bass Reeves #1, which there's only 4 of these in the world. This is one of the Legion books that's being sold exclusively by Walmart. What makes it so hard is these have stickers on them. Walmart decided, don't know why, but they decided stickers on every one of those books was going to be a good idea. Nobody else thinks that, but they did. And another book Matt Snow traded me was Evolution #1, which is the Image Skybound book. Really excited about that. Now, I will get to my goal books here really soon. But before I do that, guys, I still fell prey to FOMO this year. And I picked up quite a few books that I didn't necessarily have planned. And not all of my FOMO books are going to be here, but some of them are, okay? Now, I display all my CGC books, so it's easier for me to put those in videos than some of the raw books that I have, because they're put away in the cabinets, and I don't know exactly, well, I do know where they are, but I just don't know every FOMO book that I got. But I was able to pick up a cool Static #1 from 1993 and a 9.8. I was really stoked to get this book. I saw Aaron from AA Comics on his Instagram. He had ASM 316 and a 9.4. Complete FOMO buy. Now, Los from Los Comics, okay? A really great YouTuber, a really great person. He was selling this on Instagram, so I had to pick up this Amazing Spider-Man, and I think this is 62. So, awesome cover with Medusa on it. Now, this book is all the rage. I have quite a few copies of this book raw. I have a 9.8 right here of ASM 55, a Pat Gleason cover. Now, Doug Bratton, thank you, because of you, I just said because twice. Because of you, I now have Sandman #1. And there's a complete FOMO. I walked into an LCS, I was getting ready to do a show. They had the book out, and I ended up picking it up. Here's another FOMO. Now, this is my 3rd signed Roy Thomas book. He actually signed another book for me that is currently at CGC and probably will be there for another 2 years. But Submariner #1 from 1968, signed by Roy Thomas. Avenging Spider-Man #9, first Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel. And another one, my only 9.9 in the collection, a Peach Momoko, Cimmerian Frost Giant's Daughter #1, and it's his 2 first. First 9.9, the first CBCS book in the collection. Now, let's finally get to my goals. Now, I've talked about 4 goals, okay, in my previous videos. 4 of them were comic books, and I'm going to tell you what number 5 was, and I'll tell you now, okay? My 5th goal was I wanted to reach 1,000 subscribers on the Matt Woods YouTube channel. Guys, not only did we accomplish that, we went way past that. So I want to thank everybody for helping making that goal a possibility. I appreciate everybody. And then the 4 comic books that I script, saved, and I sold comic books to acquire. Now, the first one is a modern book that a lot of people are going to be surprised of. This is Thanos 13, the first appearance of Cosmic Ghost Rider, which, I don't know, I just think is a really cool character. I think he has a lot of potential. Donny Cates does magic with his writing, and that's one of the cool characters he's created. Now, this is still a raw copy, and it does have a detached cover, but I'm telling you, this Fantastic Four 48 is the best displaying comic book that's going to come back low grade because it has a detached cover. But I am telling you, this book displays so well, and I've looked at it to see if there's any type of repair or restoration. I don't see it. We'll see if there is, but I think it's a clean book. Now, Amazing Spider-Man number 569. This is inspired because my son really liked Anti-Venom whenever he was a young kid, so I wanted to get this book in the collection. I have ASM 569, the A cover and the B cover, but this variant, or forgive me, this is a second printing. I guess it is a variant. It just has Anti-Venom on the cover. This was a hard book to find in that grade. And then another book that was the big book in my collection this year that I ended up scoring was Daredevil number 1. I sold quite a few books, trust me, this year. That was a great part of this year, as I was able to basically let the hobby fund itself. This was a longer video than what I normally put out, but I just want to thank everybody. Some of the people that I met in person, I can't wait to meet again. And I communicate with a lot of people on a regular basis that I have not met yet. And guys, I hope I get to meet each and every single one of you in person someday. But guys, I want to thank you for watching, and everybody have a great day.